It was beautiful growing up. It was. I was always on front row all the time, hanging out with my cousins, just being close. Not even having to worry about people coming up to me or anything. It was like we're safe back then. I felt safe back then. I was able to just walk off, enjoy life as a child.
Oh, it was pretty fun. Did, a lot of stuff. Went swimming at the bridge, played along the shoreline a lot. Skateboarded, typical Burn Church kid stuff.
I would say that growing up here in Esgenoopetitj was a great experience because you grew up with family, and when you grow up with family, it's a close-knit family. I find that the connection in my clan is very strong.
Growing up came with its fair share of struggle. I've seen my parents struggle growing up, so being put in a position where I felt like they always had to mend to my needs made it very hard on them. And maybe they were not put in a position at the time to become parents to me, but they did the best that they possibly could. And despite all the struggle and the petty differences that they shared amongst one another, everyone finds their own path. And I feel like I wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for everything that happened in my life up to this point. And I'd like to think I'm proud of the person I am today.
Growing up, my parents were a lot of really hands-on. So like my mom and dad, they either fished, they did every seasonal job that you have around here because that's how you live. So we would fish, we would go woods work, you did everything that you can to make by, and then either the community would help try to teach you with that, or your parents brought you to teach you how to do that. And to me, it was like you were still involved, no matter what. And you didn't grow up alone.
When alcohol was introduced to the people in our community, that's when things start getting rough for the people. And it was hard enough as it is back then, like getting groceries or clothing and stuff like that, because you didn't have a lot of money back then. So when alcohol was introduced, it just made it even harder. But it also introduced me to alcohol also. And I figured, well, it couldn't be that harmful. But later on, as time went on, as just a young girl myself, I started getting into it. I think I was 15, 16.
What was growing up in Burn Church like? I got in trouble, fighting drugs, alcohol, young age, life lessons.
It impacts a lot of people, most people, families, breaks them apart. Married people, kids suffer for it. It impacts a lot, definitely does.
I've seen a lot of my friends die of it at a young age, in their 30s, 40s. And that is young now, today anyway. And like I said, my dad was only 61 when he passed because of it. He drank so much. My friends in their 30s, 40s. So I just turned against it, and I was just heading about the age of 30 before I sobered up myself.
There's no activities, a lot of boredom, leads to trouble.
Living on the reservation, it's a lot stronger because we're so small. Alcohol is everywhere. Drug abuse is everywhere. It's just reservations are tiny and we know each other, as in we see it often. We see it with our family members. We see it with our friends. And we see it with just people walking around. And growing up and looking at that, watching it and seeing it, I didn't want that in my life. I didn't like it when I seen somebody passed out on the ground or somebody's overdosing and foaming at the mouth because of drugs. And that wasn't necessarily my family. That was even just seeing people on the outside. And then to me, that wasn't what I wanted. And it didn't necessarily affected me personally. Like, it didn't financially, emotionally, or anything like that. But it kind of still imprinted on me. And I didn't want to bring that home. I didn't want, like now, my son, he's 3. And I'm not saying I don't drink. I said I definitely don't do drugs, but I drink occasionally, and I still won't like parade that around my son type thing. And I try to still educate him, even though he's only 3, about it. Like, it's the choice, but don't let it demand. Don't let it be your life. Like, growing up, I was always taught your name is who you are. I said, don't ruin your name. Whether, like, you know people. Whether you're from here or you're from anywhere, you'll know somebody by their name, and you right away they'll be associated with alcohol or they'll be associated with drugs, and their life is ruined just because of that. Even if they did something great, you still won't see the good in them because of what happened. And to me, I didn't want that.
I think if growing up with a parent that's sober and a parent that was alcoholic, I had a different way of looking at things differently and more of a healthier way of looking at my sobriety. Whereas if I felt that if I grew up in a family that alcohol was accepted into the home, I don't see myself being where I am today as much as a stronger woman. Maybe because my values might be a little different. I grew up not having alcohol in my home because my mother, we weren't allowed to have alcohol in our home. So I try to express that here in my home, and that it's not something that is, I don't think it's a way of life to retain our culture, to know our identity. Without that, we don't have that sobriety.
Drugs, I feel, has a big influence on a lot of the negativity that's going on in the community.
It's led to overdoses and even brain damage in one of my family members.
I think the pain comes from way beyond the community itself. I mean, every single community struggles with isolation, for one, which results with boredom. But a lot of the pain that Aboriginal people suffer from comes from a grander perspective of residential schooling, where people were abused, and it led to people coming back with post-traumatic stress syndrome and just not generally being the people they were before they went to these residential schools. And I feel like all that abuse resulted in alcohol abuse and drug abuse, and then it's passed down from generation to generation. So I don't think overall that it's something that began in the community. It began from older generations abusing the next generation, and that generation abusing the next generation afterwards. And I feel like there's still probably another 2 or 3 generations to follow before we start seeing reconciliation, and we start seeing that we're going to start healing as an individual species.
I think people have to look deep down inside of them and ask themselves, what is it that I really want in this life? Because only you can make that change. Nobody can't really talk you into it. I mean, there's some people that comfort you, and then it may wake something up inside of you. And sometimes it's good to talk about it. And sometimes, instead of holding it all in and ready to explode. So I have to thank her, and because she's the one that kind of made me kind of look at myself and say, what are you doing to yourself? And why are you doing it to yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And what can I do about it? Because I'm the only one that can change that, not anybody else. And do I really want that change? And I wanted to do that, make that change. I wanted to do something for myself besides being an alcoholic or being someone taking drugs or whatever.
I would just think that as a young person to start to really instill the pride in yourself, the confidence in yourself, that you have wonderful gifts. We come with wonderful and born into this world with really wonderful and creative gifts. And in order to find those gifts is to really start to look within yourself.
Well, I think that a lot of what you learn comes from your mentors. So I feel like reinforcing yourself to stay away from the negative energy and vibe yourself with the positive energy, then that's what's going to set you apart from which path you take in life. Because it's all about how guidance is provided to the younger generations, because they're the ones who need to learn. And you learn from your peers, I believe.
You know, the people need to come together more, maybe. You know, stop holding grudges, work together. Definitely stay in school and graduate and, you know, start playing a sport, some baseball, hockey. You know, start doing something active, positive.
A community center where there's help with people making resumes, stuff like that, activities, sports, like a recreation center, not just for the youth, but for everybody.
We gotta get the children, especially, to be more active, so they don't have to think about stuff like that. They have their focus on something else than all the negativity around them. They're more positive.
My name is Sequoia Pearly. I'm from Burnt Church, and I am 8 years old, and my parents are Shelly Pearly and CJ Pearly. My little sister is named Samagwin, and my little brother is named Xander. I'm in Burnt Church School up to K4 to grade 8. I'm in grade 4. I sometimes go to my friends, or sometimes I go to my juniors. I am a shoal dancer and a jingle dancer. I wish that no such thing as drugs would happen, because it's bad for our people.
Hi, my name is Leo Bartybook. I am a director for the Drug and Alcohol Prevention Program in the Esgenoopetitj First Nation. I've been working with the program for 17 years. I've seen and heard an awful lot of voices in my life in the past 17 years. I also work with another staff member, Dalton Francis, known as Doc. I've worked with a lot of others that in the past that had the same types of goals as I have in trying to provide a healthy life environment for our community. We've all seen what alcohol and drugs can do to our community members that are struggling with the addiction, how it has ravaged their lifestyles and their livelihoods and their way of being. I myself was a part of that in the past. I've been involved in a lot of drugs and alcohol in my time. However, there was voices out there that encouraged me to seek a better life, see what I can do. And if I didn't look back and reflect a little bit on my life, I wouldn't have been able to see all that. So I'm grateful that I did listen to the people that were encouraging me to change my life around. One of the great heroes in my life was my mom. She always encouraged me to stop. She was always there, regardless how many times I got on the horse. She kept on having that much confidence in me to know that I was much more than what I was then. So I'm encouraging this to all of you in the First Nations in our community, that a sober life is a good life, a life that I think we can all strive for. where we can focus, where we can be more confident in what we do and how we do it. We can provide a much safer and a healthy life environment for our children, and we have to really take care of them, because it does take a community to raise a child. So we all have to pitch in on this. We've done enough in our times to know what's right and what's wrong. So I believe it's about that time that we get up and start doing things that are right. One of the things is providing safe and healthy environment for our next generation. I think we all have to be those role models that everybody's talking about. You see, we just can't keep saying it and not do it. We've got to walk the talk. So I believe that it's about time that at this in time in life, that you're all at a certain age, that we all have a role to play. I believe it's that time now. These young future generations, we need to give them healthy minds, healthy way of living, so they can be healthy, making decisions in our lives, because they will be our future leaders. So we have to pull it together, and we all have to tuck through this and find a way out of it. I believe that we all have the ability to do things. Our ancestors did, so can we. I believe that in my heart, otherwise I wouldn't be in this position, that if a guy like me can turn my life around, I believe that the majority of our people can, if not everyone. There was a time once when everybody was needed, and they all played their roles. And I keep bringing this back to the community, the fishing crisis. And at that time, everybody was needed, and everybody played a role, and there was people more focused than they are today. So there was less alcohol, less drugs, less things that they were relying on because the community needed them. I believe that calling is here again. We all need one another to save our children. I believe that the time is very crucial. I believe the time is now. I encourage you all to look at this video, to hear the people that are in this video, look at your beautiful community and what it can provide for all of us. I am proud to say that I've been sober and drug-free for the past 20 years, which is something that I'd never thought about in the past at all. I've lost my father through alcohol, and I've lost many of my friends through drugs and alcohol. And I certainly don't want to lose any one of you or witness any one of our children getting hurt or winding up some places where it's not too healthy. I believe by embracing one another, we can provide that safeness for one another, for our next generation. This work that we do is a job that is endless, unless we all do something about trying to prevent drugs or alcohol coming into our community that poisons our people and our people's minds. I am very fortunate to be put in a position where I believe that I can impact a few, if not a lot. Hopefully I do, because I have done my job. However, the struggle just keeps going. So if you need anything, or if you need to talk to somebody, we're here. We're home. We're on our cell phones, or at the office, and if we're not there, either we're there with a client or doing something with a client or visiting a facility where our clients are. And I don't even like calling them clients because they're not clients, they're our people. And so I urge you, stay focused, say no to drugs and alcohol, stay strong, and we'll get through this together. Well, Leo, have a good 24, and I'll have one myself. That means one day at a time. Tahoe.